And we're live here on YouTube. I'd like to welcome those listening in podcast land, and I'd like to welcome my buddy Rich. Rich, how you doing today?
Doing good, Mike. Didn't know you were pressing live that quickly. It goes so it's a little bit more of a sudden change with now that we're on YouTube. I had to get that last cup of coffee.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you.
Last sip of coffee.
I don't blame you.
But no, I'm doing good. It was kind of a long week with work, but everything came out okay.
Good.
So, and yeah, just looking forward to a short work week because I'll be taking next Friday off, so it'll be nice.
Me too.
Nice to have that. Yeah.
Very different reasons. And then we need to talk the week after that too. I forgot to mention.
You got it. Offline though.
Offline.
Yeah. But Mike, how was your week though?
It was good. It was busy. It's been a little crazy, but we're getting there. Daughter's room is finished, so we don't have anything there left to do. Got trim up this week. So that's done. Got the appeal for the walls started at least. I was gonna check on that and get a check on that later today. But you know, we've been good. Yeah, it's been a good week. So
all right.
Okay, Rich, we got a decent show to talk about. We got lots of sports to talk about, but not a lot of things you and I know a lot about to talk about.
That's right, Mike. Yeah. So we'll get to recap a NASCAR race, but we don't have one to predict.
Yep.
Because NASCAR was put on a break by NBC Sports due to their family of networks having to covering the Olympics.
Yep.
So I'm sure the drivers appreciate the break, as we talked about that last week. But there was a piece of news that we get to talk about.
Yep.
And we got to talk Cubs baseball and maybe a little bit about the trades that have happened. A little bit that has happened so far, with the trade deadline being on the 30th. Mike, what else are we going to be talking?
So this week we're going to talk about the Olympics, man. Tons of stuff with the Olympics. I have some thoughts on the opening ceremony, and I've already watched one full sport thing that has happened already today, and we'll give a medal count as of the show, and we actually have NFL to talk about as things are happening. It snuck up on us as it tends to this time of year. We tend to think, man, we're going into this dead month. Luckily, the Olympics is bailing us out on that. But even beyond that, the month of August, we got to talk football starting at the beginning of the month, because we got a month worth of football, and we still got news that happened this week that we got to talk about. So tons of some football stuff, and then we got quick hits. I don't see any in there, but we'll see if we have any as the show goes on. All that and more. Let's go ahead and roll the intro. Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa. This is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich. And we're back. Okay, Rich. Before we start anything, we got a poll question to talk about, as we always do.
We do. So, Mike, our poll question this week, while you're pulling it up, was we're on cereals and we're looking at Captain Crunch versus Frosted Mini Wheats. So, Mike, before you give the results, did we have anybody comment on any of the poll threads, on any of the polls posted throughout our social media pages on Facebook? And you can always find those polls by looking for Mike or I on Facebook, as well as Fans of Balls and Sticks and Balls and Sticks.
And this ball is lined to right, and it is fair.
Sorry.
Totally, it comes through.
Sorry.
Did we have any comments on the post?
No. I mean,
no.
I
Okay.
not see. I'm trying to find the post.
It's there.
I trust it is fair, but I'm
Okay. So anyway, Mike, I can pull it up here on my phone, but well, I voted for Captain Crunch. So in this, I don't Frosted Mini Wheats being a popular cereal, just not for me, I guess. So
there. It is. I found it.
Okay, you got it. I voted for Captain Crunch. Mike, who did you? Where did your vote?
Cap'n Crunch. And
Oh,
we had 18 voters this week, Rich.
we did.
18.
So
Good job on that poll.
all right. So
So-
voting for Frosted Mini Wheats, we had Andrew Goldforth, Solo Stroop, Cameron Tripp, Sue Hart, Ryan Cunningham, Tyler Allen, Lindsay DeMoth Coffin, and Mickey Roderer. Mike, on the winning side, Captain Crunch. Give the voters.
You had Mikey Hart. You had Pam Hendricks, Keaton Werner, Ashley Shreepeck, Brooke Rice, Josh Hendricks, Brad Burns, Jason Flanker, Rich Hendricks, and Ryan Van Wy.
All right. Thank you, everybody that voted. And once again, you can find our poll questions on Fans of Balls and Sticks, as well as Mike and I's, under Mike and I's, because we tend to share it. Mike, any thoughts on this poll? Because I gave mine. I prefer Captain Crunch, whether it's with or without crunch berries.
Crunch
to
berries
Frosted
are
Mini
amazing.
Wheats.
That's my
They are.
first and foremost.
Yep. We'll
and
get the
then-
vote on them later, though, because they are two very different cereals.
Yeah.
And they are marketed differently. So
But Captain Crunch is delicious. Frosted, I love. So here's the thing: I actually love shredded wheat, frosted shredded wheat, and especially. Pro tip: little brown sugar over the top. I know it sounds crazy because you're already got sugar on top of sugar on top of sugar on top of sugar with Frosted Mini Wheats, but legitimately, sprinkle it on there.
yeah.
Changes it and it makes it even better.
But your level of Frosted Mini Wheats, even prepared that way, was not enough to tip your vote to them over Captain Crunch.
Correct.
Okay.
I just
All
love
right,
Captain
Mike.
Crunch.
This week, which I'll put up once we get done off of air, we're going back to the entree side of more breakfast foods, and we're going to go cinnamon rolls and biscuits and gravy. Cinnamon rolls, biscuits, and gravy.
Man, Rich, how you gonna do that to me? That ain't even fair. You know
There's
those
going to be tough matchups.
but
There's
you know those
gonna
are
be-
like my two favorites. Those are like legitimately my two favorites. I don't even know anymore. This is gonna be rough. I'm gonna do my best, but this one's rough.
Yeah. All right. So we'll get that up. So, Mike, do you see what's coming up next?
Is it a left turn, Rich?
It is a left-hand turn, Mike.
And then after that, we're pulling into the pits for a couple of weeks because we're heading into the NASCAR Corner, presented as always by Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated, Moline, Illinois. Check them out on 5th Avenue for all your sports memorabilia needs or on their eBay store. Once again, that is Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated. Rich, this last week we were in
Indianapolis.
The home, the mecca or a mecca of motorsports.
Yeah, I go with that.
So, did you get to watch the race?
I did not. We were off. It was a birthday celebration for myself and my nephew JD, and so between being around the dinner table and then going out to Iron Tea for some golf to hit some balls at their driving range. We did not. I did
How
not
was
get
that?
to see the race.
I forgot to ask. How was that?
It's fun. It's fun. It'd be a little bit more fun if I were better at golf and probably knew how to properly swing a golf club. But it's still fun. There's different games. It's not just whacking a ball and seeing how far you can hit it. They have different games that you can set up. So I didn't get to watch the race. I was kind of following it on my phone so I could set my fantasy lineup appropriately and kind of tracking where people were at. on the grid, but that was the extent of me watching the race. Mike, I know you have your opinions on how the race finished, so why don't you give those, since you actually got to watch the race?
So I watched the race, and the reins moved, or there was a wreck on the second to last lap. So there was a wreck significantly before that, but yes, the second to last. So it had turned into a fuel mileage race.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, in a fuel mileage race, I believe, if I remember correctly, Kyle Larson was going to win no matter what. But my problem became they have a wreck at the last minute, green white checkered, or goes into overtime. No, they don't go into overtime. This is a wreck just before the end of the race, and okay, now I got to look it up because.
So while you're looking that up, I'll give a recap of where our drivers finished. So, Mike, Kyle Larson was your winner. Your pick of Alex Bowman came in 31st. My pick of Joey Logano came in 35th. So, Mikey, you currently have a 15-13 lead going into the Olympic break. So the next race will not be until August 11th. On the fantasy side, Mike, Indianapolis. I won the week with 180 points. The new Dupo came in second with 139. And Mike, you brought up the rear with 100. Overall standings, the new Dupo, Solomon is in third with 36.34. Mike, you're the man in the middle with 36.91. And I am atop the leaderboard with 41.13. Back to you, Mike.
Okay, so at the end of the race, and I can't remember who was in first at the time, had no fuel in his car. Ryan Blaney was also up front, and then Kyle Larson was in the second row. The guy who had no fuel made it all but to the start of the back into getting into the race, and he peels off and goes into the pits because he's out of fuel, not gonna make it.
Mm-hmm.
So, when that happened, Brad Keselowski, that's what it was. Brad Keselowski was. They were. If they were on fumes, they were doing good. They had less fuel in it than I'm trying to come up with a good joke. They had nothing. They had less fuel in it than when you're trying to get home and you got to poop on a road trip and you're barely going to make it. They were as low as you can get. He peeled off right, like, at the commit line, coming to the restart. He peels off, leaving.
Was it Blaney thinking that he was the control car and they gave the control car?
Blaney is the control car here because he's now in first technically, but he was in the outside lane. And Kyle Larson is on the inside lane.
Oh, okay. So Blaney's saying I'm the control car, but he didn't get to make the point of doing the choose rule. He got stuck.
Right. He took
the outside lane.
He took the top because he thought Keselowski would run out of gas and wouldn't make it. So he thought he would be able to pass him and then drop to the bottom. Instead, Kyle Larson is now underneath him. That's terrible because Kyle Larson had a really good car. So restart happens. a wreck happens before they even get off the front stretch. Green, white.
And that sent it to overtime?
Sends it into overtime. Green, white, checker. Everybody, there's gas. Now there's question if Blaney has enough fuel.
Mm-hmm.
And Kyle Larson, still everybody knows that he has plenty of fuel. No big deal. Well, they do the restart. There's a wreck on the backstretch. Okay?
Okay.
This is where I think the problem comes in. I got no problem with. So what happened when Brad Keselowski peels off? Everybody has to stay in the lane they chose, but Kyle Larson gets to move up to the front row now. Okay, I actually have no problem with that. I think that's a fine way to do it. It was one of those things where you literally could not have changed without making the caution and going another 2 more laps, basically. You would have had to say, fine, we're going to go 2 more laps because you have to do the commit line, and then after the commit line, then you have to then line everybody up. So it's going to be another 3 laps worth of caution that you're going to have to put in.
Okay.
Then you get the restart. Whatever. I have no problems with that. That's done. I'm good with that. My problem comes, green, white, checkered. They get going. There's a wreck on the backstretch. After they get through the wreck on the backstretch, Rich, you watch NASCAR, right?
Yeah.
Okay. When there's a wreck, they don't always throw the caution right away, correct?
That's correct. They got to review it to see if the lead car passed the start-finish line.
This is before the white flag ever had a chance to come out. This is any normal caution. They don't always throw it. If the car doesn't put lots of debris in the racing area and can get off the area for which cars might be going, they normally throw the yellow flag, right?
Yeah.
Okay. If he can't get off, if he's stuck, even if he's stuck in the apron, but he can't move, it's pretty regular that they're going to throw the caution, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a car on the backstretch that can't get off of the he can't get off of he can't move. And he's actually on the racing surface. And they don't throw the caution.
Okay.
And they don't throw the caution. And they don't throw the caution. They let Kyle Larson get his lead, get all the way around to the front stretch to get the white flag, and then immediately after he passes the white flag, guess what they do, Rich?
They throw the caution so the race ends?
Yep.
Yep, race ends under caution, and
Kyle Larson wins.
Kyle Larson wins.
I'm sorry. You knew that car was there the whole time. And I get it. You have plenty of time to let the cars have tons of time. This is a massive track. You have tons of time to throw the caution afterwards and let it slow down. But that's not how you do protocol.
Mm-hmm.
A car wrecks on the backstretch in Daytona.
Mm-hmm.
And can't get off the racing surface. Doesn't do any damage to anything. Doesn't leave anything anywhere. 9 times out of 10, they're going to throw that. Even though it's a 2.5-mile racetrack, they could wait till they pass the start-finish line and get halfway around turn 1 before throwing it, and you still could potentially slow down enough to make it safe to throw that caution. By the way, in a normal circumstance, as soon as he can't, they slow it down. Rich, you didn't watch NASCAR before the rules changed. Okay?
I did not.
Back in the day, when a caution came out, you raced back to the start-finish line to see if you were a lap down, you could gain your spot. That's why they introduced the lucky dog, by the way. But you would legitimately race back to see who would get the first spot, and the restarts were different, but we won't worry about that. So in the idea of safety, they changed it so if they freeze the field immediately after a yellow is thrown.
Okay.
Instead, unlike any time they've done since they've made that rule change, where the guy is at, knowing he's not moving anymore, they don't throw the caution. They essentially let them race back to the start-finish line like they used to do to get to the white flag to end the race. Completely negating the rules that they've had in place for the past 15 years. Why?
Because they wanted to see the golden boy. The storyline you get out of this is they wanted to give the golden boy a win.
Yep. I'm not happy about it. I think it's a mistake, and I think it was terrible. My issue has nothing to do with Kyle Larson getting to move up a row. That's fine. But if you're going to do that, if you're gonna have rules in place that are the same rules 99.9% of the time, by the way, that should be 100% of the time. A rule is a rule, and as a sanctioning body, you have to follow the rules. You don't just change the rules when you don't like it, or when you're worried that it's going to change the outlook. You enforce the rules. What would it? I was going to say what would happen if it was called roughing the passer, but if you hit, and I was going to say Ben Roethlisberger too hard, nobody cared, but they actually did that.
Yeah. So what you're saying? So if it was, so let's say it wasn't a Hendrick driver that was made, because I think you still would have had the same thing if it was any Hendrick driver out there.
If it was a Hendrick driver, probably. If it was, again, here's the thing. If it would have been Ryan Blaney, I actually think they might have changed it for Ryan Blaney.
They would have threw the caution and done a second overtime because, well, by the rules, we have to throw the flag, and we're not going to get that. But you think they would have done it if it like a one-off, if it would have been a one-off victory, like a B.J. McLeod.
Oh yeah.
Or a J.J. Yaley.
Yeah.
In the lead position at the point of where there was a questionable. Do we throw the flag, or do we throw a caution, or do we not throw a caution?
Yeah, if it was one of those guys, if it was one of those lower tier guys in the lead, 100% they would have done that. It would not have been. There would not have been a question. They just would have done it.
Gotcha.
And so
seeing this on the schedule, this was a race I really wanted to watch, be able to sit and watch, but just wasn't able to because of where it fell on the calendar. So I was really hoping to. I'm looking. I was glad to see that they're going to be back on the oval next year. Although unofficially, they've said they're going to be back at Indy and on the oval. So I'm glad to see that. I was expecting a bigger trophy for that place. It's almost like it was the size of a trophy that you get for like playing in Little League baseball, and the topper was a brick.
Yep.
I would have thought it would have been a bigger trophy.
Yeah.
For what's coined as a crown jewel event in NASCAR.
And so here's the thing. It's really weird because it's winning. I don't know that the race itself is a Indy crown or is a NASCAR crown jewel. It's the location that you're at that makes it a crown jewel, which is weird. I know that sounds. again, and I would also argue the oval, not the.
No, yeah. I think we even talked about that. Is it a big enough prestige to win at Indy when it's their road course layout versus their oval layout?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. So it was quite a. Yeah.
All right, Mike. So next week, so we can still have a NASCAR corner, we will talk the NASCAR playoff standings. But Mike, before we leave the corner, we got to touch base on a driver parting ways.
Yep.
As Corey LaJoie and Spire Motorsports have parted ways.
Yeah.
So the number 7 team has brought in Randy Childers, a top flight crew chief. Yep. But now it seems like a driver that's been a big part of Spire Motorsports is departing the team.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about this.
Okay.
I think Corey LaJoie doesn't. I don't know who's hurt more by this. Was hurt more by this relationship. Theoretically, Corey LaJoie has skills that should make him a medium tier at least, and he always was he was in a lower tier, mid lower tier racer. And I don't know if that was Spire Motorsports vehicles or if it was Corey LaJoie. I don't know who was being hurt more in that. This is a problem with these small race teams. And again, Corey LaJoie gets the ride. If Corey LaJoie's in a Hendricks car, what's the likelihood that he's a better driver?
And he did get to be in a Hendrick car, as I think he got the fill in. He got a one-race. He had a one-off with Hendrick, I think, last year, and that was a question we even talked about last week. Is are we going to see if Corey LaJoie does better in a more of a top flight team versus his current ride at Spire? And nothing really changed. He still finished in the 20s of that particular race. But
again, I would say the argument with that is that a one-off on that doesn't really is building a team around somebody that changes how they can do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
So I would argue putting Corey LaJoie on a team for 1 week, yeah, the equipment is better, but it's that whole team mentality that has to be better. By the way, it's why I think 2111 or 2311 is such a good team, because they brought the owners are guys who have worked in a high level of building team. You got Michael Jordan and you got Denny Hamlin, both guys who have worked on top tier teams and know how to build a team. That's why they work. Yes, they get motors and they get body. I think they still are I don't know if they're still getting bodies, but in the beginning,
they're aligned with Joe Gibbs Racing.
From Joe Gibbs Racing. As they get bigger, because didn't they get one of the
I don't know if they bought one of the SHR charters.
Either way,
So I don't know if they're going to go to a 3-car team.
They have built a team there that is designed for and will continue to be a top tier team. Not just the talent is there. Yes, don't get me wrong. They brought in top tier talent. By the way, if you're going to comment in the comments, if you're going to say, I'm sorry but Bubba Wallace isn't a top tier talent, you're wrong. You are 100% wrong. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you think. You are wrong. Watch the man race regularly. Regularly, he is in the top 15. It is not unusual for him to be in the top 10. Yes, winning races, maybe he doesn't win races as much as you think. a top tier driver should. But look at how many drivers don't have wins in a given year. Bubba Wallace is a top tier talent in NASCAR. If you don't think he is, I don't want to use that card, but you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna. The man has the skills. You might not like that what happened in Talladega that one year. You might think he was doing something inappropriate. He was making a mountain out of a molehill. By the way, he didn't. He wasn't the one who did it. He made a joke about. He made a joke that looks like that, and one of his teammates said, "Whoa, what the heck is that? That should not be here. That's ridiculous." He didn't. He made a joke. Somebody else said, "Oh, that's not cool." You might not like that, this, that, and the other. The man is a top-tier talent. By the way, when Denny Hamlin retires, there's a good possibility I'm a Bubba Wallace guy.
Mm.
And if you got a problem with that because you think he's doing this, that, and the other, you're wrong. Look at his skills. Look at how good he is in races week in and week out. That man deserves to be in the top tier of NASCAR. And honestly, and with 2311, I'm talking about how great their talent is and how great they are as a team. But if you put him on a Hendricks, I guarantee you he's winning 3 or 4 races a year. I guarantee it. You give him a couple more years as they build this team, as they build their engine building, as they build their ability to engineer the car better. Watch him go. Bubba Wallace, top tier guy.
Okay.
I have none of it. I will have none of it if anybody says anything different.
All right.
They've done a great job.
So to circle back to Corey LaJoie,
Yeah.
do you think with with Spire Motorsports bringing in Randy Childers, if there was an agreement, either official or unofficially, of all right, if I sign with you, do I get to pick my own driver? And he did not want Corey LaJoie. Or at least the option to pick my own driver.
He might want that. That's not.
I think
most crew chiefs don't look for that as something in their contract. But they also wouldn't agree to. A lot of times they won't agree to work with somebody they don't want to work with. The job, like the difference in pay from being a chief engineer, somebody on the top tier, but just the second tier just below a crew chief, the difference in pay is not that huge. So it doesn't make that much of a difference to take a job at a place that you don't want to take a job. So I don't know. Again, that's for me to say. I would say I don't think that would be the case, but it could be. I don't know.
Okay. I mean, for me, I was kind of surprised to see that type of move released because, I mean, Corey LaJoie might be finishing in the 20s every year with a chance to maybe be in the top 15 if it's on a super speedway.
Yeah.
But he brings a lot of media coverage to your team because NASCAR so heavily promotes the Stackin' Pennies podcast, which Corey LaJoie hosts, and he brings sponsorship dollars with him
which that's the big thing. The sponsorship.
So that's why I was surprised
huge.
that Spire parted ways with him, because he could turn around and take the sponsorship dollars with him to whoever he rides, whoever gets the ride next year.
By the way, again, and I keep going off on these tangents with NASCAR stuff, but that's why
Bubba Wallace.
That's why Stewart Haas Racing is is closing, because they would bring in guys that could get that top tier sponsorship money, and then keep going,
but not necessarily have the talent to go with those sponsorship dollars.
They would have a lot of those guys have the talent, but then it was Kevin Harvick's last hurrah. So he was there for his last hurrah, and then when he retires, that money goes away. Brought Busch Light, brought that funding, He brought. They had Ryan Newman when Ryan Newman was there. Ryan Newman actually was. The NASCAR community loved Ryan Newman, and so sponsors loved Ryan Newman. But then they move on from Ryan Newman, and the money dries up from it.
Yeah,
That's
Eric
where the issue-
Almirola. Eric Almirola. Smithfield sponsored him. It was the sponsor that got him to come back for another year.
Yep.
Eric Almirola officially retires, and all of a sudden, Smithfield is out of the NASCAR game.
Yeah. So it's stuff like that change it that has hurt him. Aspire, I hope it doesn't hurt him. It doesn't hurt them, but we'll see. So we will do NASCAR in the next 2 weeks, and with that, Rich, go ahead and take us out.
All right, so that was the NASCAR Corner, presented by Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated, Moline, Illinois, and you can also find them on eBay. Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated. Mike, let's keep going around in circles, but we're going to go to the baseball diamond, Mike.
Yep.
As this week from show to show, the Cubbies played 2 with the Diamondbacks, 3 with the Brewers, and 1 with the Royals.
Yeah.
And Mike, you got it right. They got 2 wins.
Yeah.
Out of that 6-game set.
Yeah.
So kind of disappointing. We've already, with this coming week, Carter Hawkins and Jeb Hoyer has said that any moves that they may or may not make at the trade deadline will be made with an eye towards the 25 season, which I think is the right move to make, because even if this team gets hot and some other teams cool off and they're able to leapfrog and get them into a wild card spot, I don't see this team getting out of round 1 anyway. So why mortgage the future to be eliminated in the wild card round?
Okay. So I do have some add-ins from friend of the show, Nick Baker.
Okay, Nick Baker, yeah.
I'm just going to read what he said.
Very well.
So so this was on Wednesday. He just looked it up. The Brewers have more offense production than any year that Craig Counsell was their coach. This year, the Cubs team is the worst has the worst offense production for the Cubs in the last 10 years. He says that as he has been saying, the offensive philosophy of Craig Counsell is garbage. He needs to reconsider it and change it. Unfortunately, he does not see Counsell doing that. The Cubs have the exact same roster as they did last year, and they are down almost an entire run per game, lower average. The White Sox, who are going to be the worst team in history, is the only team worse than us right now on our runs per game. I honestly 100% summed up a lot of how I feel about the team right now. Now, I disagree with the Craig Counsell bit of it. I think he does have some interesting stats there, but something needs to change. Now,
yeah,
I don't know what it is. What are your thoughts on it?
You know, I don't know what it is either. I'd like to. I guess I don't know why a guy like Mike Tauchman is getting so much playing time. If you want to say that, well, any move that we make is going to be an eye towards 25.
Yep.
Why not take any deal that you can get, even if it's a bag of peanuts and a bucket of bubble gum, and let Mike Tauchman go and give more playing time to Pete Crow Armstrong, and even bring up Alexander Chirino or Owen Casery and see, all right, are the talent evaluators that put together these top prospect lists, are they right in naming those 2 individuals as top prospects in our organization? Play them, put them out in the field, put them out, let them DH. Why are we giving at bats to a journeyman outfielder?
Yeah.
Now, I understand that you can't necessarily bench Suzuki or Hap. With the amount of money that we're playing them and their talent level, yeah, those guys need to be in the lineup every day. But
Honestly, I don't know. Are we though?
Casery.
I mean, seriously, do they have to be? What have they done? We say that their talent level is so good. Is it? Are they playing at a level for which they actually deserve those statements, Rich?
I think that they are, but that's also coming from a person that doesn't get to watch them, because the Cubs chose to make their TV network so hard to make their TV network hard to not be on.
You can get just a single subscription to it.
Yeah, and I don't want to pay that either.
Okay.
So I try to listen to games when I can, and I try to watch them when they're on national television.
Yeah, I get it, and I'm not saying you're wrong. I don't know that Ian Happ, like in the past Ian Happ has, but at some point talent falls off. Maybe he hit his peak. Like, are we sure he hasn't just hit his peak? And he's now on the downhill slope?
He can still play some good defense out in left field, though. Still Gold Glove level defense.
Rich, if you hold a team to 1 point and you score 0 points,
yeah,
what happens?
You still lose the game. I don't know. Maybe I've got a soft spot for Ian Happ, due to it being a follower of his podcast for.
Well, and I don't blame you, but he's also one of the last guys from 2016.
He was not on the 2016 team. He was the 17. He was the year after.
Was he in the farm system? Was that what it was?
He was down on the farm during 16. He wasn't quite up with the team, but
he
you associate him with that team.
He played a couple games that year, though. He came up.
I think that he did.
Yeah. Okay, sure. But
you still associate him with being from that core group that won a lot of games between 15 to probably 19. 20 was when things started going downhill.
Let's be honest. Cousin Kyle, as we like to call him around here.
Oh yeah, by all means, Cousin Kyle.
He was on that team. He was an integral part of winning a World Series. Do you think he deserves to stick around longer?
No, they're waiting for his contract to run out,
right? And
then he's not going to be brought back.
And do you have a soft spot for him that you want him to bring him back?
Not anymore.
Then why do you have the same soft spot for Ian Happ, who his performance in the box has not been what it needs to be to keep him on the team? By the way, you're going to get a bag of peanuts for him. That's all you're going to get for him. His contract's too big. Doesn't matter. He's on the team for a while. That sucks. Can't afford to just sit him on the bench. I get what you're saying. You're paying him way too much to do that, but
and the same thing with Suzuki. I mean, if anything, you give him playing time and you see you have.
Does this make you not want to let the Cubs pick up another Japanese guy? Because it's happened twice. This is our second time.
Seems like they get the Kosuke Fukudome. He brought a lot of fan favorites. He
was great. He was great for a year, but then the league started catching on to him and got the scouting report on him. That's basically what happened to Seiya. So,
or he has stretches of great production, and then he takes a nosedive and gets in his own way.
So, okay, Rich. This week we have we have 2 games against the Royals, 3 games against the Reds, 2 games with the Cardinals. I got to give them 2 again.
I think you're going to get 2 Shota Amaga games in that 6 games.
Who else is going to win a game? By the way, what offensive production are they going to do?
Well, yeah, in order to win? Even if you get a good starting pitching performance, So I'm going to go 3. I'll give them 3 so we can be different and have a good discussion when they ultimately disappoint or only come up with 2 wins out of that set. I mean, Cincinnati is starting to tail off, but the Cardinals are still in a playoff position, and maybe by the time we record next week, a couple of Cubs were traded off because they're not in the picture for 25. So
yeah. Okay. With that, Rich, let's head to the Olympics. Neither one of our teams has a gold medal. How about that?
Okay.
But we do have a medal
What
count.
gold medal? Yeah.
China has 2 gold medals. Australia has 1 gold medal. China's gold medals are in diving and shooting. I don't know what discipline in shooting it was. Australia has 1 in cycling road, so road course biking. Great Britain has a silver and a bronze, and the U.S. also has a silver and a bronze. So the U.S. and Great Britain traded spots in diving. The U.S. got silver, and in cycling road they got bronze. In Great Britain got cycling road silver and diving bronze.
All right, Mike. So before you talk about the opening ceremony a little bit.
Yep.
What are some sports you like to watch that really only get coverage during the Olympics, but might not get the mainstream coverage of being featured in prime time or just on the NBC over-the-air coverage?
So one of mine, I love the diving. I love the aquatic sports.
Okay.
I love aquatic sports. I was a competitive swimmer and a fairly good competitive swimmer in high school. I now look like a whale, but whatever. I love swimming sports. I love aquatic sports. But those get mainstream coverage, except
they do
for one.
Is it water polo, Mike?
You got it, Rich. Water polo. But water polo is the most vicious sport in all of sports. Do you know within the rules, Rich, if you and I are playing against each other, I can kill you in the game. Literally kill you. Cause you to die, and I'm still within the rules. Let me explain. So, in water polo, if you are holding the ball underwater, which is illegal, I'm allowed to hold your head underwater.
Until you release the ball.
Until you release the ball. If you don't release the ball and I keep holding your head underwater, at some point, if I keep doing it, you die. And I'm still within the rules. Now that does not cover, necessarily, that doesn't cover you legally from getting legal prosecution for it, but it in the rule book it is there. So water polo is my sport of choice. What is yours, Rich?
All right. So for mine, going back to the 2016 Olympics, I really got into watching rugby. So rugby is a sport that I like to watch Olympic wise. That's probably going to be buried on Peacock or early live coverage would probably be on USA.
Yep. So I'm going to flip it. What's your favorite mainstream sport?
Yeah, mainstream sport.
I mean, I already said mine is swimming.
It probably would be the swimming. I really don't get into the track and field events that much.
How about basketball?
If I'm going to watch basketball, I think I wouldn't mind seeing the 3-on-3 basketball. Faster paced, more wide open game rather than the 5-on-5.
This is why I do a podcast with you, because you literally took exactly what I was trying to lead you into. That's exactly where I was trying to go, Rich. Thank you for grabbing that. The 3-on-3 basketball is for me. If I'm not talking swimming, because swimming by far and away is my favorite. I watch swimming in the off years when it's on, when I can find it coverage. I will sit and watch swimming. I love it. It is my favorite It's my favorite non-mainstream sport out there that becomes mainstream only in the Olympic years. But
Okay,
3-on-3 basketball is awesome.
All right. So only because it was a point of discussion on the Dwyer Michaels show this week as a new sport that got added, but is it really a sport?
No.
Breakdancing.
I mean, it is. It's
How
a very
how is breakdancing?
Okay. Well, I would say it's a sport because in general the teams are like. It is a sport in the same way gymnastics floor routine is a sport. Are you okay with the floor routine for gymnastics?
Yeah.
Okay, what's the difference?
It has gymnastics after it instead of dance.
Okay. But ballroom dancing was a sport for years.
Yeah, and I think that's the comparison that they used as well. Because I said so you're saying in gym class we were forced to do square dancing.
Yep.
As part of the Illinois high school
we
gym
did
curriculum. So
we did square dancing and line dancing.
We could be put on. So why is it square dancing?
Yep.
An Olympic sport.
Yeah, I mean you could make that argument, and people do. And competitive dance is a thing. I have no problems with it. It's fine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're going to put ice dancing in the Winter Olympics, why not put like the ballroom dancing or dance in there? So I guess I can see it. I just wanted to put it out there, Mike.
Okay.
So
opening
go
ceremonies.
ahead and talk about the opening ceremonies for a little bit.
I think it was amazing. Rich, we only have like 8 minutes for the show.
So let's put the NFL to next week.
Okay, that's fine. We're going to do NFL next week. We got a bunch of NFL talk and stuff. But let me give you it's going to be a 2-minute real quick thing. It was a celebration of the city of Paris. Now, you're going to have, there are already people talking about all the homosexuality agenda, all the making the Last Supper, imitating the Last Supper, blah, blah. Here's the problem that I have. One, it's Paris being Paris. Parisians have been, and rightfully or not rightfully, Shakespeare talks about Parisian man love, homosexuality as a thing. Been a thing since Shakespeare's time. Why do we expect them to get any less or more? What is their base? They celebrated the city from Notre Dame to the Louvre to the Eiffel Tower. It was amazing.
And you were saying even the city known as the with fashion.
Yeah,
with fashion as
well.
They
did fashion. It was a complete celebration of the city. I loved it. I will stand firm on that. Then I'm cutting it short. They intertwined the artistic part of the opening ceremonies that to me is the worst part, but they intertwined it with to me the best part. Which again, this is backwards for most people. I love the parade of athletes. I think that's for me the best part. Whereas the artistic part for me is the worst. They intertwined it, so I didn't mind it. Then they did the traditional all the opening ceremonies. Apparently, doing Imagine is now part of the opening ceremonies. It's now a requirement. I didn't know that, but fine, do that. I don't care. I don't necessarily agree with the message of the song, but I also understand that the concept that they're going for is peace, and that's it. Totally fine with me. I'm not gonna argue. I'm not gonna be. Same thing with all the other political side of the things that are about it. What I will say, and this is where I'm going with this. They did all the speeches from and the oath and the flags and all that stuff, and they lit the torch, which that was really cool. They didn't have the opening ceremony in a stadium. They went down the river Seine. Like I said, they had a boat parade as the parade of athletes. Really cool to see, because again, it was intertwined in the entire city. The temporary stadium that they put up for the ceremony for the ceremonial part of stuff was right across from the Eiffel Tower. So the background of that is the Eiffel Tower. How amazing! But they didn't light the cauldron there. The cauldron is actually about 2 miles from that in a pseudo hot air balloon that's lit and blah blah blah. Really cool. And after they light the torch, music starts to play. And a woman that we don't see hardly ever in the last 10 years, but since she's been diagnosed with, it might be, oh man, it's 15, almost 20 years, since she was diagnosed with stiff person disease or whatever it is. Celine Dion came out and sang amazingly well. I don't care if you like her music. Her ability and her vocals are amazing, and she did great. Blown away. Just blown away by it. The whole thing was a true celebration of Paris and the Parisian life and all of it. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I understand people's issues with it, but you're not gonna give. Why do we expect more from people than debauchery anyway? I thought it was a great thing. I'm all game. So I loved it. I highly recommend it. If you haven't seen it yet, watch it. Maybe on double speed if you can. So anyway, with that, Rich, we're going to move on. Any shout-outs before we end the show?
I don't think that I have any this week. I just put it in there so it's on our radar for future weeks.
Yeah, okay. With that...
So, Mike, next week...
Oh, we do have a shout-out. We do have
a
shout-out. I think it's Sunday. Friend of the show, friend of ours, maybe not the show, friend of ours, Joe Perry, his life day is this week. He took a couple rounds in Afghanistan, and it didn't take him out. And we celebrate every year that he's still alive. And Joe, we love you, man, and we're glad that you're still here, and hope that we get to celebrate with you soon. And
all right. So
with
Mike,
that, anything else?
For next week, Mike, whether make sure to have we're going to be looking at some quarterbacks that got paid this week.
Yep.
We didn't quite have time to do that this week, but we'll be looking into that.
And we might have more.
Week.
We theoretically should have more by then.
We could have more. And so, Mike, as a filler for next week, though, Mike, we're going to build out, since basketball is a part of the Summer Olympics, just like we did with baseball last week. Next week, we're going to build up a fictional basketball team. So
sounds good. Let's do it.
Come prepared with talking points and your starting five for that. But Mike, that is next week's show, which we'll probably be recording on Friday night. So Mike, tune in for that. Mike, if they're watching us here on YouTube, but they just want the audio, where can they find it, Mike?
Wherever you can find podcasts. I'll get that. I need to get that uploaded and get updated this week. But yeah, check us out there. And with that, Rich, go ahead and take us out.
Mike, why don't you go ahead and roll that outro?
Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa. This is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich.